The passing of Joni Lamb marked the end of a deeply influential era in Christian television, leaving behind a legacy that shaped faith-based media across the world through her decades of work with Daystar Television Network. As family, close friends, ministry partners, and longtime colleagues gathered for her private memorial service, the atmosphere was described as emotional, reverent, and centered entirely on remembrance and gratitude. Rather than a public or media-driven event, the service was held privately, reflecting the family's wish for a peaceful and intimate farewell. Those present described a gathering filled with prayer, worship, and reflection, where the focus remained on celebrating Joni Lamb's life, ministry, and spiritual impact rather than public attention. Joni Lamb co-founded Daystar alongside her late husband Marcus Lamb, and together, they built one of the largest Christian television networks in the world. What began as a vision for faith-based broadcasting eventually grew into a global platform reaching millions of households across different countries. After Marcus Lamb's passing in 2021, Joni continued to lead the network while also hosting programs that became central to Daystar's identity. Her voice, presence, and leadership remained deeply connected to the channel's daily operations, and for many viewers, she became one of the most recognizable figures in Christian broadcasting. At her memorial gathering, speakers reflected on both her public ministry and her private character. While audiences around the world knew her as a television host, those closest to her described her as a woman of strong faith, emotional depth, and deep commitment to encouraging others. One of the most repeated themes throughout the service was her dedication to spiritual encouragement. For decades, she used her platform to speak to viewers about hope, healing, forgiveness, and resilience. Many attendees shared that her programs often arrived at moments when people were struggling emotionally, making her presence feel personal even through a television screen. The memorial reportedly included worship sessions, scripture readings, and personal tributes from family members and longtime ministry associates. The tone throughout the gathering remained reflective and peaceful, with attendees sharing memories of both ministry milestones and personal interactions that highlighted her kindness and leadership. A significant portion of the service focused on her life's work with Daystar Television Network. Many speakers reflected on how she helped shape the network into a global ministry platform that continues to broadcast Christian programming worldwide. Her influence was described not only in terms of leadership, but also in terms of vision and perseverance. Friends and colleagues spoke about her resilience following the passing of Marcus Lamb. After his death, Joni stepped into an even more visible leadership role, continuing the mission they had built together while also navigating her own grief and public responsibility. Those close to her described this period as one of both challenge and determination. Her son, Jonathan Lamb, was also referenced throughout tributes as part of the continuing family legacy connected to Daystar. Messages of support from viewers around the world were acknowledged, reflecting the global impact of her ministry. Attendees described the atmosphere of the memorial as deeply emotional, but also filled with gratitude. Rather than focusing solely on loss, many speakers emphasized celebration of a life spent in service, a career dedicated to ministry, and a legacy that continues through the network she helped build. Music played an important role during the service, with worship songs and hymns creating a reflective environment. Many attendees were visibly emotional as familiar songs from Daystar programming and Christian worship filled the space, reminding them of decades of televised ministry. Several tributes highlighted her role as a mentor within Christian broadcasting. Beyond her on-screen presence, she was described as someone who encouraged younger voices, supported new programs, and helped shape the direction of faith-based media content over the years. Speakers also reflected on her personal values, faith, family, and perseverance. Those closest to her described her as someone who deeply valued prayer, spiritual discipline, and maintaining strong family bonds even during demanding public responsibilities. Throughout the gathering, there was a consistent emphasis on dignity and respect. Family members reportedly ensured that the service remained private and protected from public scrutiny, allowing those closest to her to grieve in a meaningful and uninterrupted way. While public conversations and online discussions continue to surround her passing, those who attended the memorial emphasized that the true focus was on honoring her life's work rather than external narratives. In the days following the service, tributes have continued to appear across social media platforms. Viewers from different parts of the world have shared memories of watching her programs, describing how her messages provided comfort during personal struggles, illness, grief, and uncertainty. For many supporters, Joni Lamb represented more than a television host. She represented a consistent voice of encouragement in their lives, someone whose teachings and presence became part of their daily spiritual routine. Ultimately, her private memorial reflected what her family and loved ones wished most: a moment of peace, reflection, and gratitude. While her passing marks the end of an important chapter in Christian broadcasting, those closest to her believe her legacy will continue through the work she helped establish and the millions of people she influenced throughout her life. And even as the world continues to reflect on her contributions, the message repeated most often at her memorial remains simple and steady. A life lived in faith, a voice that encouraged millions, and a legacy that will continue long after the final broadcast.